أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم من همزه ونفخه ونفسه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Dear listener, we are going to discuss about riba, which is the major difference between conventional banking and finance and Islamic banking and finance. So in today's session, we will discuss in detail about riba, its type and its prohibition. So in this series of sessions, we will have three sessions, and each session would be having its own characteristics. So first of all, we will discuss about what is riba or interest, and in the second session, we will discuss about the types of riba, and then we will discuss about is riba is limited to a loan contract only, or it can be happen in the sales contract, and then we will discuss about the practical examples and practical implications one by one. So first of all, we need to know that what is the basics of riba, or what is the literal meaning of riba. Riba mean excess or addition or increase. So the basic meaning of riba is addition or increase. So now we need to know the different types of uh, riba or interest. So we can categorize it into two different types of riba. One is riba in the loan contract, which is very much common in the banking and finance industry, whereas the second one is riba in the sale or exchange contract. So here we need to understand and we need to know that the riba is not only prohibited in the Islam, rather it is prohibited in all the major religions of the world, and more specifically we can say that it is clearly prohibited in all the Abrahamic religions. Abrahamic religions include Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But unfortunately, some of the experts of their religions said that it is, you can say, permissible in some specific circumstances. Let's say, for example, Jews say that if a Jew want to transact with the Jew, so they cannot deal in the riba. Whereas if Jew will deal with any other religion inhabitant like Islam, Muslims, like Christians, like Hindus, so they can charge riba. And on the other way around, in Islam, there is very limited, you can say, favor or support of this concept that if you need money or loan for, you can say, the commercial purpose, so you can deal in riba. But if you don't want to take loan for the commercial purposes, rather you want to take the loan for the personal purposes, so you cannot charge or you cannot pay the riba. Anyhow, there is a very clear, you can say, prohibition of interest in all the major religion of the world. So here there are, as we have discussed, that there are two different types of riba. Uh, the first one is riba in the loan contract, and we call it as riba al-nisaya or riba al-Quran. Why we call it as riba al-Quran? Because its prohibition is discussed in detail in the Quran. We call it as riba al-jahiliya. Then, and by the way, this is the riba which is excessively or dominantly used by the financial industry, banks or insurance companies or microfinancial institutions or capital markets, money markets, etc., etc. And then there is another type of riba that is in the sales or the exchange contract. We call it as riba al-fadl, and we call it as riba al-hadith as well. Why? Because the prohibition of this kind of interest is, or riba is, discussed in the sunnah or the hadith of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. We also call it as riba al-buyu. So why the riba is prohibited in the different religions of the world? First of all, the first reason is that there is an unequal risk sharing, that is one-sided benefit. Let's say, for example, if one borrower is getting the money from the lender, so only borrower is sharing the risk. Lender is not having any kind of risk. Why? Because he has to get fixed or maybe variable returns, but the returns are insured. So, but on the other way around, if the borrower is not making money or not making profit, So he or she has to pay the interest principal plus the interest amount, which is basically an example of unequal risk sharing. So there is no risk sharing in riba based financial transaction, whereas in Islamic banking and finance or in Sharia finance, there is a risk sharing element over there. Then the second one is exploitation of people in need. Let's say, for example, I am a poor person, and I am in need of need to have a medical, you can say, expenses, but I am not having the money. So what I have to do, I have to get the loan. I have to seek the loan from someone, and if he or she is agreed to pay me the loan along with the riba, so that is again the exploitation of the people in need. Let's say, for example, I am in need to get a medical treatment, but I'm not having the money. So what I am doing, I am seeking the money from the lender who is borrowing, who is basically providing the money to the borrower, mean to say me, on interest. So that is the exploitation of the people in need. So it leads to the wealth concentration as well. For example, if I am having the money and I am lending it to a needy person, so in an interest-based system, money flows from borrower, usually the poor or middle class, to the lender, normally the banks or the financial institution or the wealthy people. So borrower become poorer due to the interest burden which they are seeking basically, and lender becomes richer without any kind of effort. He's having the money or she's having the money, she's or he's just lending the money, and they're not putting any effort, but they're getting the money. So basically this is the concentration of the wealth. So this basically widen the wealth gap and destabilize society. Then money on money is unproductive. Let's say, for example, in what is happening basically in the Islamic finance industry, in the one side there is a money, but on the other side there is a product. So there is an economic activity by which the people are getting the employments, and they're earning the money, and then they're spending the money on some industries, and those industries are basically again flourishing or growing, stay at growing stage. So that is not that is money on money basically not create. There is no conformity that there would be a, you can say, economic activity. There may be an economic activity and there may not be an economic activity. But in Islamic finance, the economic activity is ensured. Otherwise, you cannot make money on money. So, very recent example of the financial crisis is there in front of us, that the interest-based financial institutions collapse, and in USA, and they impact in globally basically. So what they were doing, they were making money with the money, which is not any productive activity, by the way. Then debt trap and the endless cycle. Yes, if let's say, for example, you are missing your due payments on the loan, principal plus you can say interest. So what there would be happening, there would be a compounding of interest, and you would be under the burden of endless, you can say, principal plus interest amount. Then it removes the compassion from the financial dealings. What does it mean basically? Religions, specifically Islam, encourage the, you can say, benevolence, and Islam and the religions always, uh, you can say, lesson that you should help the needy people. Then Islam basically encourage the fairness and the mutually beneficial transactions, whereas riba based, you can say, financial transaction replaces these values with guaranteed profit. Lender is getting the guaranteed profit from the borrower. On the other way around, there is a pressure. Let's say, for example, if the borrower having some losses, so borrower would be having some pressure on it, on him or her, and then hard heartedness as well, and then the exploitation, as we have discussed in the previous slides as well. Then create instability in the economy. If let's say, for example, there would be an imbalance between the lender and the borrower. Why? Because the lender is getting the guaranteed profit or guaranteed return, whereas borrower is not getting the guaranteed profit or the returns. Rather, he or she is bearing all the risks pertaining to that particular financial activity. If there would be a loss, so they would be under more pressure. So that will basically create imbalance or instability in the economy. And on the other way around, the financial instruments basically creating instability in the economy, as we have seen in the very recent financial crisis. We cannot say that very recent, but those are recent. Those are the latest one in 2008 and 9. Now we have to discuss one by one the types of the riba. So first of all, we have to discuss about the riba in the loan contract. We call it as riba al-nasaya. It is an increase in the payment from a borrower to the lender over the original or the principal amount charged by the lender due to delay in time. Uh, right? So we can say it that any benefit which basically lenders seek from the borrower, either that benefit is a monetary benefit or a non-monetary benefit. We call it as riba. So first of all, whenever we are making any kind of financial transaction, so we have to see that what is the underlying contract. If the underlying contract is the loan, so the lender cannot seek any kind of either monetary benefit or either non-monetary benefit. Monetary benefit, we all know very well that, for example, you are giving me $100,000 and demanding me back repay, demanding me that I have to repay $110,000 after 2 years, let's say, for example. So this is a monetary benefit. On the other way around, let's say for example, I'm a farmer and you have given me $10,000 as a loan. So, and seeking the same amount of loan, that is $10,000, but saying me that, okay, you are producing rice, so you have to give me 100 kg of rice along with $10,000. So that is the non-monetary benefit. On the other way around. Why? Because I'm not paying you back with the money, rather with the money plus a product. Or on the other way around, some services. Let's say for example, I'm a lawyer or a doctor or a teacher, and I have taken the loan from you, and for that I'm offering my services. Let's say for example, I'm a lawyer and I have to offer my services for your organization, let's say for example, until I pay back the loan amount. So whenever there is a loan contract between two of the parties, that is the lender and the borrower, so any benefit which is basically stipulated from the lender to the borrower, so that benefit, either monetary or non-monetary, will become riba, and that is prohibited, and that is prohibited in all the major religions of the world. And one more misconception in our society is that the interest is a fixed amount. That is not the right thing. Why? Because let's say, for example, if we deal in the rents, uh, rent is a fix, but it is halal. It is permissible. On the other way around, the riba, which may also be fixed or may also be variable. So if it is fixed, it is impermissible. Why? Because we are talking about the underlying contract, and that underlying contract is the loan contract. And over the loan, if we seek any kind of benefit, we call it as riba. So either that riba is a variable one. Let's say, for example, we connect, or we you can say, yes, we connect that return with the gold price. Let's say, for example, so the return on the loan amount would be volatile, or you can say variable. For example, if I'm having the money from you on the loan contract, and you ask me to pay me back whatever the 10 gram, for example, or 2 gram gold price would be after 6 months. So I have to pay that amount, and which is not fixed, which is variable, and I'm not sure what would be the price after 6 months, or after a year, but I have to pay. So that is variable. On the other way around, we all know, if you are a banker, or if you came across with any financial transactions, so you know very well that there is interbank offer rate. For example, LIBOR, London interbank offer rate, or every country normally have its own interbank offer rate. So if we connect the return over the loan contract with that interbank offer rate, that is also variable. So that variability does not make this riba as permissible. It will remain impermissible. So we are not going to see either the return on the loan is a fix or a variable, either monetary or non-monetary. Any kind of benefit, either it is monetary or non-monetary, and on the other way around, it is a fixed or a variable. All are prohibited. We also call it as riba al-Quran. Why? Because the hurmat, or the prohibition of this loan contract based riba is discussed in the Quran. One thing that we have to understand additionally, let's say for example, you have given me money in my hard times, and I have started a business, and I make a money, and I come to you after a year, and let's say for example, you have given me $25,000, and you are seeking the same amount, that is $25,000. So I'm returning, or I'm paying you back $25,000, and I'm thinking that this person has helped me out in my hard times, and given me $25,000, and I've started a business, and with that particular business, what I have done, I make a lot of money, and why not I should pay you some amount as a token of appreciation, maybe, or as a gift, maybe. So what the lender has to do in that case, lender can accept that token of appreciation or the gift, and that will not become riba either, although it is a benefit which I am paying you or paying to the lender, but that will not become riba. Why? Because that additional benefit is not stipulated or compelled by the lender. Rather, the borrower, mean to say myself, is paying you on my behalf because of my own will, because of my own happiness or whatsoever. So that additional amount, for example, I'm paying $2,000. Now I'm paying you $27,000 total. So that $2,000 is not additional $2,000 is not stipulated by the lender, and that is not pre-agreed that I have to pay something extra. Something means something variable. That is not fixed again. So that was not decided at the time of the loan contract, and on the other way around, that is not the stipulation or not the compulsion from the lender. But at the time of paying you back, I myself willingly paying you with my own will, mm, uh, just after thinking that this person has helped me out, have supported me in my hard times, so I should pay something extra. And why? Because I have made money, for example, with that money by doing the business. So that kind of additional benefit lender can charge, but it will not be a riba, rather it would be a gift from the borrower. These are some examples of riba al-Quran or riba al-Nisaya. The credit cards, not the debit cards are not included under riba. Why? Because you can use the amount only which is available in your account. Yes, bank can deduct some charges, service charges. That is not riba. But when we talk about the credit cards, so under the credit card contract, we are not going to use the money which we are having in our accounts. Rather, we are, you can say, dealing directly with the banks, or you can say that bank is directly paying to the supplier or the third party on behalf of me, and book that amount as a loan in my books if I'm using the credit card. And if I cross that due date, so I have to pay the amount other than the principal amount, that is the loan amount. So that will become riba. Now, what is there normally people ask me either should we have the credit cards or should we avoid. So I always suggest, not I always, rather the other scholars are also recommend that you should avoid to have a credit card. But if you are having some transactions which are based on the credit cards and you cannot live without credit cards, let's say for example you are an online buyer and you are doing some business and you need credit cards, then you can have credit cards, but with the due, you can say, precautionary measures that you will pay on time, so that you don't have to pay some additional amount, or you don't have to pay the riba or the interest over that, you can say, purchase. Why it should not be, you can say, taken from the conventional banks. Because whenever you are taking that credit card, you are basically signing the contract between the bank and you, that if you will pay after the due date, you have to pay the interest. So that is the contract between you and the bank, but which you are signing basically. So that's why you should avoid. Then home mortgages or the car automotive loans or the personal loans, all these loans are basically, you can get from the conventional banks. Let's say for example you are in need of home, so you can approach the bank that I'm having 30% of money, and you should contribute, or you should give me the rest of the 70% amount as a loan, so that I would be able to buy a home. So what the bank is doing over here, they are not going to be the part of that particular house. Rather, they are providing you the loan, and you are the one who is going to buy that particular home or house, for example. So after the certain time, you have to pay the principal plus additional amount. Bank only ensure that you have to buy the home just because of its own security. Let's say, for example, you default or I default uh, because of any reason. So the bank can acquire that asset, sell it into the market, and recover the money and the principal amount plus the interest amount. So that's why conventional bank also ensure that if you have taken the loan for the home mortgage, so you are going to buy the home with that particular amount. If you have applied for the car or the automotive loan, so conventional bank ensure that you are going to buy the car with that particular amount of, you can say, loan, just because of its own security. And we will see one by one that what are the solutions basically for the home mortgages, for the car automotive loans or the personal loans. But conventional bank every time providing you the loan, they are not providing you the, you can say, the assets. In some cases yes there is, but all those transactions are again having some other non-sharia compliant activities. In this case, the customer is the borrower and the bank is the lender. And next one is the bank certificate of deposits. So in that case, in this situation, bank will become borrower and the customer will become the lender. So the customer would be lending the money to the bank in term of deposits and getting some amount, maybe a fixed or maybe a variable, from the bank as an interest. And same is the case with the capital market bonds or the government saving bonds. So in this case, the general public or the bond holders are the lenders, and the bond issuer are the borrowers. They are paying you the coupon payments. And now is this is in the conventional markets. Now, how bonds become Islamic bonds, we will see one by one once after discussing or understanding the different modes of Islamic finance. So we will see that how all these home mortgages or automotive financing, personal financing, or bank deposits, or capital market Islamic bonds, or government saving Islamic bonds, how they work basically. So we will see one by one in our later videos. Now there is a second type of riba, that is riba al-fadl, which basically happens while we are transacting a sale or we are transacting an exchange with each other, which applies basically six different commodities: the silver and the gold, which are not consumable, rather they are the usable, and they are basically the real currency. They are the real medium of exchange sources. But four other commodities are there. Those are the dates, barley, salt, and wheat. These six commodities basically are narrated in the hadith of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. We will try to simplify the concept so that you would be able to retain the concept of riba al-fadl or riba al-hadith. So we have to consider two things, two, you can say, characteristics. One is the time, and the second one is uh, the quantity. So these are the two things which we have to consider, and there are two different kind of situations or the circumstances we have to face. Either if we are going to exchange one commodity with another commodity. For example, I'm having some commodity and you are having some commodity. So we want to exchange. Yes, there are some rules we have to follow. If we are exchanging the similar kind of commodities, let's say for example you are having the inferior quality of dates and I'm having the superior quality of dates. If we want to exchange, what would be the rule? And on the other way around, if you are having the dates and I'm having the barley, for example, or I am having the gold. So in that situation, if we want to exchange, what would be the rules of exchange? So there are two conditions and there are two rules. Two conditions: that you are going to exchange homogeneous products, and then you are going to exchange heterogeneous products. And what are the two rules? Either you have to see that uh, there is a time characteristics and there is a quantity characteristics. So what both of them will apply in this situation, and both of them will apply in this situation, but in different ways. So we will see that how those would be implemented. So there are a rule of exchanging. The commodities must be exchanged on spot in both of the situations. Either you are going to exchange homogeneous commodity or you are going to exchange heterogeneous commodity. In both the situations, you have to exchange on spot, hand to hand. There should not be any delay. There should not be any deferment. For example, we want to exchange commodities, for example, dates with the dates or date with the gold. So at one hand, I will give you, and other hand, I will receive from you, right? So hand to hand, on spot. And similar commodities must be equal in quantity. For example, if we want to exchange the dates with the dates, either one is inferior quality and the other one is superior quality. If we want to exchange the homogeneous commodities, the quantity will remain same regardless of the quality. But if the exchanging commodities are heterogeneous, so the quantities would be different. For example, this party would be demanding more quantity against whatever he or she is having. For example, he or she is having the gold and this party is having the dates. So uh, 10 gram of gold would be equal to 50 kg of dates. So that is okay. But in case of heterogeneous, but on the other way around, the exchange would take place on spot, hand to hand. That is not relaxed. And there are two examples as we have discussed before. If you are going to trade wheat for the wheat, so the amount of wheat must be equal in both sides. And wheat must be exchanged at the same time on spot, hand to hand, right? This is the one thing. If you are going to exchange wheat for the barley or silver for the gold, etc., so the amount of wheat and barley can be different since the commodities are of different types, and the rule of similar quantity will not applicable over here. You are going to exchange the heterogeneous commodities, so heterogeneous commodities would be different in quantity. But on the other way around, the barley and the wheat would be exchanged at the same time on spot, hand to hand. You cannot defer any side delivery. You cannot defer either wheat or you cannot defer either barley. So you have to deliver on spot, hand to hand. So this is one practical example. I just request you to please pause this video and think over it and solve it. And once you solve it, please play the video and you will find the answer. And the answer is that it is riba. Why? Because on both sides there is a gold with different purity or with different quality, but the quantity is not same. So what we have discussed, that if the the commodities or the products or the assets are of homogeneous, so the exchange would take place on spot and with same quantity. But here in this example, this is not happening. Rather, 12 gram of gold is going to be exchanged with 5 grams of gold because of the purity of the gold at one side and at the other side. Now we have to discuss about the credit sales. So what is first of all credit sale? For example, you deliver me this, for example, mobile phone today, and I have to pay the amount after 6 months or after 3 months. So that is credit sales. So the question is that either for the credit sale, can you charge more amount than the spot price? And the answer is yes, you can offer me a higher price for the credit sales. But keep in mind one thing, that once you have offered me a price, let's say for example, if you offer me this mobile phone, let's say for example $2,000 on spot and $2,200 for 6 months credit. So let's say for example I agreed that okay, I will pay after 6 months and I'll pay 2,200. So the price is now today is fixed. This is contracted, either written or either verbal. So I cannot or you cannot change the price in any circumstances. Let's say for example I am not going to pay you after 6 months. Instead I am paying you after 1 year. So what you will do, what you will do, either you will charge more amount than the $2,200 or you will charge the same amount. So the answer is that you will charge the same amount that was contracted between you and me. We will discuss in detail while we would be discussing the different modes of Islamic financing. But here the key rule is that once the price is fixed and contracted, so that price cannot be changed. Either the payment is delayed or either the payment is made earlier. So either of the party cannot claim that, let's say for example, if I'm going to pay you after 6 months, more than 6 months, maybe after 1 year, so you are not going to charge me anything additional other than the $2,200. And on the other way around, if I'm going to pay you after 3 months instead of 6 months, so I'm no one to claim you that I'll pay $2,100. Why? Because I have paid earlier. So if any of the party will do so, that party would be involved in riba. So again, very short, that credit sale is allowed, and uh, the price once decided between both of the parties, either verbal or written, the price cannot be changed in any case. Now, what is the difference between the loan and the credit sales? In the loan, the item of sale is money, and pre-agreed increase over the original money is riba, as we have discussed in our first session. Sorry, second session, yes. But in credit sales, the item of sale is not a money. Rather, it is something that is a product or services or any other item. And the price of the credit sale can be any price the buyer and the seller agree upon. In any of the contract, there is an offer and then acceptance. If you have offered me higher price and I have accepted, this is okay. Then provided the sale is between both of the real parties and there is no third party providing any kind of financing, as we have discussed in the credit card sales, right? If it's not happening like that, so the credit sales, the higher price for the credit sales is allowed. Thank you very much, all of you. If you are having any sort of questions, you can put your question in the comments and we will respond you accordingly. Thank you very much, and bye bye.